not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, the time when I hit. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people. Struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, the time when I hit. Though we may criticize.
Was sent. So I will proceed and we will see if we can get as far as we can. So I'm at 7:34 to 7:35 of 2017, and I'm at 8:58 of 2018. In 2018, the region employed more than 123 staff. That was its authorized strength. Could the REO indicate to us, one, on what authority were they employed? Two, how were they paid if it was not budgeted for? And three, are all these staff on the pensionable establishment or were they contracted workers?
Aria.
And just to indicate, the letter that came from the former REO did not address this matter.
Through the chair, in responding, in 2018, the query we had the increase based on new recruits, and those recruits were from the Teaching Service Commission. They were not catered for when the budget was being prepared. The employment came after. That would have reflect on the increase in employment for that particular year.
So all 123 were teachers.
Yes, I have the breakdown here. They were teachers.
Now, and if they were teachers, they all came by order from the Teaching Service Commission. These were appointments made by the Teaching Service Commission. Do we have copies of that document, Teaching Service Commission appointments?
So through the chair, we have the dates that they were appointed, and I'm being corrected. Not all were teachers. We have a few other persons who were on the different line item being employed.
So could you give us the breakdown so we could be properly advised?
So the breakdown with the line items reflect the different programs. The administration, the administrative, those some were senior technical staff, clerical office assistants, temporary employment, contracted employment, and the teachers who were appointed.
But nowhere here stated teachers. So the teachers were considered semi-skilled operatives, or were they contracted employees? The chart indicates the total employment for everything in the region. We would like to know from the 123 that is over, how many were teachers, and if they were appointed as a result of approval from the Teaching Service Commission, and what were the other vacancies that you have available?
So through the chair, my chief accountant will assist me in responding.
Good.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, teachers would have appointed under the different line item for 6111, which is administrative, 6112, and 6113. It's because of the different TS, you would have persons being appointed under 6111, 6112, and 6113. And for 6111, the one person would have been a teacher who was transferred into the region, which was a graduate HM. And then for 6112, we had teachers who would have transferred into, we had appointment of TQMs, we had redesignation from a TQM to non-graduate train assistant master mistress. And under the 6113 line item, those were teachers being appointed as TQM and TUM. And also under the line item 6113, we had one midwife who was appointed, 2 security officer, and 1 community health worker. So for the line item 6114, clerical and office support, those persons were clerk 2 general, 1 clerk 2 general, 1 office assistant, 1 accounts clerk, and 1 checker was appointed under the line item 6114. And for the line item 6115, we had 1 senior housekeeper was appointed, 1 maid, 1 vehicle driver, 4 laborers, There were in all 7 laborers, but 4 were appointed at one time and then 3 at another time. Then we had 1 captain engineer, 1 office assistant, 1 laborer again, appointed at another date, and 1 boat hand. And under the 6116, which is temporary, we had 1 handyman, 2 porter, 2 cleaners, 1 caretaker, 1 vehicle driver. And under 6117, we had 3 no, there's 1 captain engineer, 1 boat hand, 1 nursing assistant, 2 cleaners, 1 caretaker, and 1 vehicle driver. And those were the persons who were appointed under the different line items for that year, which would have resulted in the 123 persons that would have indicated in the audit report.
Thank you for the answer. Mr. Chair, I'm seeking to establish, since the Auditor General have raised this as a query, if all of the persons employed had the necessary statutory instruments to facilitate their employment, whether from Teaching Service Commission, Public Service Ministry, Public Service Commission, that facilitated regular engagement.
For the Teaching Service Commission, we would, whoever is on for that year, we will work with the instrument that we receive from the Teaching Service Commission. We would not be able to say whether the person had the necessary instrument to be appointed in those positions.
No, but the only way someone could get on the payroll is that you have to have an instrument that authorizes employment. And it is based upon that the Ministry of Finance
Yes.
would make available sums. I'm asking if whether it is Teaching Service Commission, Public Service Ministry, or Public Service Commission, all the persons engaged had the suitable instruments that allowed their legal engagement.
Yes.
So the 123 positions that came after the budgetary process was as an afterthought, after the budget was completed. These persons were hired.
Yes.
They weren't listed as vacancies.
Some. Yeah.
But if the Auditor General is saying the authorized strength was exceeded by 123, the budget document will indicate what is the authorized strength, and it will also indicate the vacancies. You cannot budget for the vacancies, but they are stated. And the query here is at 123 above the authorized strength. So that is why I'm checking to see why, if the authorized strength at the time of the budget is X, and then we have 123 after, what caused that? Was it improper budgeting? Was it improper planning? Or was there something happening in the region that necessitated this action?
So through the chair, at the present budgeting period, the staffing dealt with for that budget was the ones already in employment, unemployment, sorry. So it would be based on that budget strength. So the ones catered for after would have been based on filling of vacancy at the time between PSC and PSM and the other relevant ministries.
I understand that, Ario. Mr. Chairman, what I'm saying, if you refer to your budget document, every agency has what is called an authorized strength. And that is stated a number, a finite number is stated. Then it is stated how many vacancies exist. So the region will be short by 80 teachers. You can't budget for that, but it will be so stated so that when those 80 teachers are hired, the Ministry of Finance, through the revision of wages and salaries vote, will make provision to the payment of those. You don't budget for the vacancies, but they are stated. What the Auditor General is saying is that you went above the authorized strength, not just vacancies. Vacancies would have been stated, but you went above the authorized strength. And that is why I'm asking what caused that. Do you disagree with the Auditor General, or could the Auditor General advise us on this?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, sorry, but I think that it's unfortunate that the substantive Auditor General is not here. We had this discussion on 2016 and 2015, where, and I think Madam Teixeira was the one that pointed out that the authorized strength that you look there is, the discussion was there and pellucid, that when you say that you go over, the authorized strength is what's there in the budget. You don't, Ministry of Finance is the one that budgeted for additional staff. So therefore what you hire and those things like that come on the ministry. We went over this time and time again, and then the Auditor General subsequently, and I would ask the clerks, subsequently agreed with the position there, and I hope Ms. Chapman there is here, who is there, and said that they will re-examine it going forward.
Yes.
This exact same thing about overstaffing and complement. So Mrs. Chapman was there and could
Mr.
lend
Chair,
Go ahead.
could I lend some clarity here?
Yes.
As the Auditor General report reflects, that the positions are filled positions. It does not state that that is their total inventory, the authorized staff. It says 2018 filled. So those are just persons that would have been in employment. And thereafter, if the agency reviews their human resources needs, then they will then hire the others. And that amount for the new employees are paid under the Ministry of Finance. All new recruits are paid by the Ministry of Finance. It's not budgeted under the respective agencies' lines.
Thank you very much. We went over this several occasions.
If I may.
And first you may want to
Go
let
ahead.
So that is my understanding as well. There's some misunderstanding of what is reported in the AG's report, right? What they basically reporting is the number of persons who are actually on the payroll, and that number may not be reflective of what is required for the agency. So it don't represent it does not represent the authorized strength. And so that the Auditor General may need to review how we present that information, because it is creating a lot of confusion. I attempt to.
Yes, I agree, because we did deliberate on this issue 2 previous years, and Madam, no less of course than Madam Teixeira raised this to the committee, and that decision was made, and the Auditor General agreed that the reporting of his report would capture that decision then. I don't know, the future report, so.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're talking 2 different things, and I'm being totally missed here.
Will you clarify?
Yes, I will clarify. At the back of every budget book, specific to that agency, there's a number that is stated as the authorized strength. And that is based upon the structure and the employment needs of that agency. Then there's a specific number that will state how many positions from that authorized strength are considered vacant. In the process of budgeting, you do not put a figure in your employment costs for vacancies. The Ministry of Finance, Wages and Revisions allocation caters to provide monies if those vacancies are filled. When you're talking about employment beyond the authorized strength, is that you have increased the authorized strength and not just merely filled vacancies. The conversation that was had before was about filling of vacancies. I'm talking now about increasing the authorized strength. It's two different things we're talking about.
Mr. Chair, if you can just give us a second whilst we get the budget, the actual budget estimates for 2017 and 2018, so we can clarify this, because
Yes.
I believe at the last time we discussed this matter,
I think the goalpost
I had
just
asked the
shifted
staff to
again.
bring those documents forward for us to look at it, and we did look at it in totality. So just for clarity, if you can just give us a few minutes.
Yes, certainly.
I want to say the figures quoted here, the auditor, that's why I said at this point the substantive auditor general is not here. The figures quoted here are what, and you will see, are in the budget volume 1 at the bottom of the current. We went through this before, sir.
Yes, I agree.
So if it's a different question, the honorable member is absolutely correct. But what the figures quoted here, the Accountant General, FS, we can all recall that we went through this, and the substantive auditor general said he will revise or re-instruct or how they report on this particular aspect. And we're back here again, sir. But the honorable member saying it's a different number he's quoting, we just get it clarified.
Mr. Chairman, is there someone from the audit office who could help us on this matter?
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Which matter specifically?
I am talking about the authorized strength, the increase of the authorized strength. Or if I could help, and I will ask this directly to the Auditor General, one of the reasons why you audit employment costs is to ensure that you don't have an inflated wage bill. That every person who is paid is authorized to be employed, and the wage bill is not inflated. That's one of the reasons why you audit the employment costs. When the Auditor General says 123 persons beyond the authorized strength was engaged, what does the Audit Office mean by that? The Audit Office briefing notes that was handed to me this morning says above the authorized strength. Good.
Mr. Chair, can I have Ms. Singh, who is online, to respond to that question?
Yes. Ms. Singh, can you lend some assistance here?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So when we were querying this issue is every time a budget is prepared, the ministry or department would put in the number of staff that they currently have at the time the budget is being prepared. So that staff at that time was 1,373 staff. So those were the positions that were filled. We did not at any time speak about authorized. So those positions that were filled, 1,373, they would have gotten 1.835 billion for that amount, that amount of staff. That was the allocated amount. What we were querying is that we don't understand how at the end of the year, they managed to have 1,496 staff, 123 more, and still was able to pay them from the 1.835 billion, which was given to them. The money that was given to them was for 1,373 staff, but they managed to pay 123 more. And as the Accountant General said, you don't budget for vacancies. As vacancies arise, that is met from the Ministry of Finance, a line item from their vote. So that was what this query was about here. At no point in time did we have the authorized strength, or are we querying or commenting on the authorized strength?
Now, Mr. Chairman, that complicates the matter greater, and I thank the Audit Director for clarifying. Because if you budget to pay 1,373 staff, and you are able to employ an additional 123 and pay them from that same vote, something was wrong with the numbers that were submitted for 1,373. But in the briefing notes, I see the head of the budget agency said that the additional monies came from the Ministry of Finance, revision of wages and salaries. But the Auditor General is saying it didn't come from there. It came from the regular vote. I heard the Audit Director saying just now that they budgeted. Could I be allowed to speak, Mr. Patterson? Okay. Yes. If the Audit Director, maybe I got it wrong. You budgeted for 1,373, and you got a vote for that. Did the Audit Office see an increase of the employment cause vote that came from the Ministry of Finance to facilitate the 1,496? Could I have an answer from the Audit Office?
Ms. Singh?
Mr. Chairman, if it's met from the Ministry of Finance line item, it will be captured on the Ministry of Finance appropriation account. This figure here is from the Region 2 appropriation account. So what was budgeted for them and expended under them, it would not be what Ministry of Finance would have on the revision of wages and salaries.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
can I
go ahead.
thank you very much. First, because I just want us to dispel of the original query about the allocated strength and those things like that. So the figures here, we have the estimate, the figures, the your employees mentioned here in this budget, in this comes from these estimates, right? So therefore, I think that what Madam Director and myself were saying is right. It's nothing to do with authorized strength. Secondly, I want the FS and our technical advisors, the budget for wages and salaries and those things like that, who prepares that, right? Who prepares that? Because obviously the accusation is, or the implied accusation is that they over budgeted for those things. So we'd ask the FS how that's prepared, because you and then obviously how were payments effected for other persons, etc. So I'd like to find both of technical person to explain that, and I have a follow-up question immediately after that.
FS?
To
Go
the
ahead,
Chair,
Auntie.
Mr. Chair, all budgets are prepared by the respective agency as per line item and program. And as I indicated earlier, all new recruits are budgeted under the Ministry of Finance 6141 Program 1 line item for all new recruits.
And that's indirect
We do, it's issued via interdepartmental warrant, but it's reported under the Ministry of Finance appropriation accounts under 6141.
So, Chair,
yeah.
Chair,
Go ahead.
That explanation is correct. So that we don't budget for any vacancy. That is catered for under 6141. And that instruction is very clear in the budget circular. So that's my contribution, Chair.
Thank you, FS. You have a follow-up, Member Patterson?
So can I ask the accounting officer, because your response, the accounting officer's response is the head of budget agency indicated additional funds for the employment provided by the Ministry of Finance, revisions of wages and salaries. Do you have any proof or anything like that to substantiate this response that you provided to the Auditor General?
Through the chair, I'm being guided by my EPMA, and she said yes.
Because where do we go from here? Because the agency is saying that the extra monies came from wages and salaries from thing, and they have proof. And our financial secretary is saying no.
No, he didn't say no.
No, in fact, I know, sir. But you were saying the query is, and that's what's confusing. So the query from the audit office is that they were given $1.83 billion for 1,373 staff. The audit office is saying it though that they had when they audited 1,496, it was 123 more. The audit office is querying that how come they could have been able to pay an additional 123 staff. I'm trying to survey what the query without getting additional funds. That is the query from the audit office. Is that not right,
Mr.
audit
Chair,
office?
as
Right.
I indicated,
Yes, can I allow to finish because of course I want us to get.
Can I have Chair? I went through these paragraphs with all the regions, right? And the queries is the same. What I observed was that because persons were moved from contracts to the permanent establishment, you had a lot of savings, and it is for that reason. Because for that reason, despite the fact that more persons were recruited, you still had savings. So that is based on the on my assessment and the meetings that I had with the regions. So it appears strange that you employ more persons but still spending less. But if you were to review the report, you would see that there's an explanation right there. That's because you move people from the permanent from contracts to the permanent establishment where they generally receive less. You had a saving. That is my contribution here.
Which is correct. They don't gratuity the gratuity. But the point is that is a very logical and practical explanation. And it's something that happens on every region, as you said, FS. Why is it appearing and reappearing in the Auditor General's report if it's a regular occurrence? So, I mean, if you understand me, every single region, that's why I particularly remember us having this discussion over several meetings. Why is it still appearing if the FS, the finance of the country is saying that when persons move from the contract to fixed establishment, there are savings because they don't pay them gratuity and those things that you're able to hire and those things. It's not a good enough, a satisfactory enough explanation for the audit office, and this is a question I'm asking directly to the audit officers. I don't know if you or Mrs. Singh can answer that.
Mr. Chairman, it's not just about just providing an explanation, it's also providing the supporting documentation to support that explanation. So unless the audit office doesn't have a documentation showing us this is what you save from moving persons from the contractual establishment, and this is what you have used to paying 123 employees more, unless we are given that, we are required to put your explanation in our report. But unless we are satisfied that you provided documentation to clear that query, we would not take it out at the time we are reporting.
Chairman?
Yes. Hold on, Accountant General wanted to say something.
I can wait.
Okay, go ahead, Member Edge.
Mr. Chairman, I'm following this matter very carefully. And I don't intend for it to just blow over. I intend for us to interrogate it to its logical conclusion. If members were contracted employees and they were entitled to gratuity, 2 gratuities for the year, and you've transferred those staff members to the permanent establishment, and you now have available monies as a result of non-payment of gratuities that were budgeted for in that year, engagement of additional staff even if you're paying from those resources that are available as a result of savings, must come from someplace. It cannot be an officer taking it on his own. I got money, so I can employ other people. That's not the way employment is done in the government circles. And the audit office is saying to us, the audit office is saying to us, monies were given to pay 1,373 people. When we audited your books, we discovered that you had 1,496 people unregistered being paid. 123 persons more than were authorized. We didn't see any evidence of you receiving monies from the Ministry of Finance to deal with this shortfall. The query is, did you over budget? The query is, if you didn't over budget and you had savings because of this action that the FS is talking about, who authorized the 123 employees? It just can't happen. They have to come from somewhere. Thank you. Could I get answers? Mr. Chair, if I may, and I did say that the document that was circulated from the former REO did not address these paragraphs. I don't know if he didn't realize that that was an audit query, but the gentleman in his write-up to us, which I do appreciate, indicated about the amount of money that he saved the region. And in doing so, he said, yes, I breached the Procurement Act. But I was able to do 70 projects that was not budgeted for by the Ministry of Finance. I don't know if he had changed the programs, but he did it. And he's saying to us that in his documentation today. So I would just like to get some explanations here.
Chair, just a follow up on this thing.
Go ahead.
I just need some guidance here. So I'm quoting from this. In some of these cases, there are letters inviting 4 to 7 contractors to bid. I am in possession of some signed copies, which at present are in Guyana. I mean, do officers have government documents at home? Is that legal?
Said
No,
copies.
yes, copies.
Why do you have to go
Yeah,
to the law?
but as far as I know, because I was in the service and then I left the service, I was whatever. But I was told that I cannot have any government documents at all. Whether it's copies or otherwise, it belongs to the government.
You being told that doesn't make it illegal.
No, that's why I'm asking.
But we better watch it. Mr. Chair, yes. So there.
Mr. Chair, can I get an explanation to the question that I have on the floor?
FS, in light of the question that the member would have asked,
Well,
and
let's obfuscate here.
you would have worked with the region and made this discovery. Could you help the region in providing a response to the member's question?
Chair, let me work with them, but basically, Chair, let me work with them. The AG is not, what the AG is basically telling that for you to have that saving after taking on so many persons, it means that there's a budgetary issue, right? It means that you have difficulty forecasting your expenditure. Given the transitioning of courses from contracts to the permanent establishment, that explains why you have the saving. But let me work with the region's chair to see if we could answer the question probably better than it was answered before.
But as this seems to be a reoccurrence with regards to this particular discovery from the audit office. And in light of this revelation, I believe you, as the FS, need to really look closer at this issue to see how best we could come up with a solution to fix this matter so it won't be a consistent reoccurrence in the Auditor General's report. Because this particular issue is of concern to us at the PAC.
I agree to it because, like Mr. Etchell, I asked the REOs for information on the staff strength. I asked them, that was the first question. How many persons is the region allowed to employ? Right, during these years, and they couldn't tell me. When I referred to the estimates, the estimates did not help us either. So from the conversation, we recognize that what the Auditor General is reporting could create confusion in the minds of the readers, because when you read the report, the average person understanding would be that what they're reporting as failed supposed to be the authorized, and that is not the case. So the audit office may have to rework the report, right? But
I think from the expression, what he's saying there right now is the language. Is it a language issue? Because you're saying in the budget book you did not see authorized strength.
Yeah, I went to the book. I have it before me right now. I don't. The numbers are not there. It used to be reported, Minister, and you're correct that the numbers used to be in the estimates.
And
right?
And in 2017 and 2018 they were no longer the estimates.
That's what I have before me now. And the numbers are not.
A very interesting development.
You just have chair. You just have chair. You have the position and the scale in the estimate.
But could the FS tell us if there is not an authorized strength for each agency, what is the formula that the Ministry of Finance will use to get a block figure to fill vacancies during the year? Because that formula that authorizes the block figure is that you examine what are the possible vacancies to be filled and possible revision of salaries for that year, and that's how you get that sum. So if there's not an authorized strength, we'll be just plucking figures out of the sky. There's a science to this thing.
So I agree with you, Minister, that we should know what the authorized strength is to make those decisions. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to get that information with the REOs, nor from the estimate.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I would strongly recommend that a letter be written to the Director of Budget seeking an explanation and provide clarity to the PAC of why the language of authorized strength was removed from the budget, from the estimates, and because the fact that it is not stated, you don't know the authorized strength. You can't determine that, and that's a serious, serious matter. So could we get the Director of Budget to offer some advice to the PAC on this? Because then we have to start indoctrinating ourselves anew in how to interpret these things.
Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I've sent for the 2021 budget or even the 2022 budget, which is an exact reflection. I understand exactly what the member is trying to say, and I agree that if it's something that we want in there, we should ask the budget agency. However, I don't want the impression to be given that it was deliberately omitted. That is why I'm going to pull it out here. But I do agree with him that we can seek guidance from the Office of the Budget on how they are.
You want to check 2022?
Anyone, 2021. And I just want to show people, so because the inference is there that it's been deliberately omitted.
We need to standardize.
But yeah. I do support his other point, though, that the director of budget.
Yes,
should
PSC will act on the members' recommendation that we write the budget agency, director of the budget agency to. Okay. Director of budget to provide us a response with regards to this query.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
for
it-
2022 Volume 1, it's the same narrative used, filled vacant staff and details filled.
Yes, it's
Thank you. It's a
standardized.
standard thing, so we can ask, but I just wanted to ensure that the inference is not left in the general public that it's something that was deliberately changed. It's something that's been, I don't know when it's been changed because I'm not there. If it's been changed, but all budgets 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022 has the word fill.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We finished with the agency.
But the member was the junior minister of finance. He could probably help us to know why that was happening. But nevertheless, we will write the woman for a response to the member's question. Member Jill's recommendation, rather.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, write the budget articles. You have the floor, member.
the policy at 859, sir, the policy is that any person who is coming on below the age of 45 should be placed on the establishment. Persons coming on over 45 should be on contract. The Auditor General has indicated that 3 persons were employed by contract under the age of 45. Could we get explanations? What were those positions and why were they placed on contract?
Through the chair, currently there is one system development officer who is below the ages of 45 and he is on contract. In 2019, 2 vacancies were advertised for the same filling of the position. However, to date, no filling or appointment has been done. We are awaiting PSC. And if I can add, he is the only person in that position acting as the system development officer.
But I noticed in the response from the region that one of the officers is not qualified to be appointed substantively. How that is possible? They're all below the age of 45. And if they're authorized positions, why he cannot be appointed substantively? Was he not qualified for the position? Was he not appointed by way of order?
Through the chair, I am made to understand he is not qualified.
So he was given a job that he was not qualified for, so he could not have received the necessary appointment.
Correct.
And if he was given I said he, the person, I don't know if it's a man or woman, if the person was given a job that they were not qualified for, what was the terms and conditions of the contract? For how long?
So he is on contract for a year. So renewal is done for a year. And
This is 2018 we're talking about.
yes,
And the same person is still in the position?
correct.
And it's been renewed every year?
Yes.
And the vacancy has been advertised?
Yes, and it has not been filled. The appointment has not been done.
Mr. Chairman, maybe the permanent secretary of the ministry could help us with what is happening here. Because if there was a stopgap arrangement, because someone was not suitably qualified but was asked to fill a position, why are we continuing? Have this vacancy been advertised publicly, interviews held, and so on?
PS.
Thank you, Chair. I do not have the information at hand. What I was told is that the vacancy, we request the vacancy to be filled, but it has not been filled as yet, and the officer is continuing to work on year-by-year contract.
Is the agency satisfied with the work the said officer has been doing?
Through the chair, yes.
So he's been doing a favorable job or a satisfactory job,
Yes, sir.
irrespective of him not having the qualification that is required. The job is being done.
My answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
But that puts us in a very invidious position. Because if the person was put on a probationary period and they acted and performed satisfactorily, despite not having the requisite qualifications, they could have been appointed substantively. And they would have been able to earn their pensionable benefits as they continue. So it's 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. 5 years. What? Yeah. So is there any attempt to have this matter corrected?
Well, the attempt was that an advertisement for the position to be filled was advertised and has not yet been advertised. So there were attempts.
Mr. Chairman, the question that I'm asking, and I would like to have an answer, is, was there any attempt to fill this vacancy? And if it has been advertised, could we be told when this vacancy was advertised? Now, I may be able to help. Is this a Public Service Commission appointee?
Through the chair, yes.
Well, I rest my case because they can't act because there is no commission. So I rest my case until there's a commission. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Chairman, I rest my case on this.
Thank you. Members, do we have any additional question?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
2017 at 7:45. For the repairs, general repairs to water trestle at Karawap Health Center, there's an overpayment of $381,000. Mr. Chairman, the bill of quantities provide for the supply and install of centrifugal self-priming gasoline pump. 1. None was supplied and payment was made. Can we be told how is it that this is easy to check? How is it that payment was made for the supply of a pump that was never supplied?
Member Siraj, I appreciate your question, but those paragraphs weren't put. But in light of the fact that you
745 wasn't put yet?
no, sir.
For
17?
Where are you? It's 2017?
2017, Mr. Chair.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Right, 745, Mr. Chairman, 2017. The contract here is for general repairs. As part of the general repairs, the bill of quantities would have provided for the supply and installation of one pump. Payments were made, the pump was never installed. My question is, how is it possible for payments to be approved for a pump that you can easily see if it's there or not?
Go ahead, Ario.
Through the chair, it can be clear that verification was not made.
Well, it's very clear that verification was not made, but how is it possible? Well, you were not there at the time, but you don't have any information as to why, in perusing the record, why is it that payments would have been approved for the payment of a pump that was never bought or installed?
Through the chair, no, sir. I do not have documents to say otherwise.
Same paragraph, Mr. Chairman. And this one is glaring. It's the bill of quantities provide for the construction of a pump house. Payments were processed and paid to the contractor for this pump house, but there is no pump house to be found by the Auditor General Office. Again, this one is bigger than the pump. How is it possible for payments to be made for a pump house that was never constructed?
Again, through the chair, I may not be able to answer you accurately.
Could you use the mic a little closer so we could hear you?
Sorry, I was saying through the chair, to the question asked, I do not have any relating information as to answer why this had happened.
Mr. Chairman, can the engineer be of any help to these queries? Thank you.
Go ahead, engineer.
Through the chair, I wasn't the engineer that signed off this project.
Are you aware of the project?
Yes, I'm aware.
Mr. Chairman,
750-something.
Go ahead, Member Mike.
Ario, acting. Tell us again, please.
She's not acting, Member Mike.
You're confirmed.
Yes, sir.
Oh, my apologies. There are so many actors in the region. I wasn't certain here. You were DREO before in the region, you said to us, right?
Last year, May.
And then is when you came into the region. Now, the person who was DREO before you, is that person here with you?
No, they did not have a DRU. I filled that position.
Oh, you filled that position. So the head of that program was the chief accountant at that time, this particular year.
Hold for me, please. Let me just confirm.
No, this is 2018, right? 2017, sorry.
I was told that there was an individual by the name of Rup Kumar.
What I'm trying to establish is before these payments are made for the two projects specified by Honorable Member Siraj, the accounts department has to have a document to verify that these payments should be made. after certificate was sent to them, verifying it. So perhaps the person who was in the accounts department can assist us with whether those documentations were provided, and if they could verify for us who signed off on the projects indicating that payments should be made.
All right, through the chair, if I can assist in answering. The REO at the time was Mr. Rupert Hopkinson. The engineer at the time is Mr. Lachman Singh. And the superintendent of works. We also have the chairman of
Who was the superintendent of work?
Dinesh Mohan. And the chairman of the Public Works Committee, Ms. Juliet Kunja. And those are the signatories on the said project being questioned.
Juliet Kunja was the regional chairman of the region at that time? At
The
that time?
vice chair,
The vice chair at that time.
correct,
And she was the chairman of the,
works committee.
and her signature is on the document for payment,
Final payment.
for final payment, for the hut that cannot be located.
On the contract for that project.
Yeah, but the chairman of the works committee can be on the contract.
The payment certificate, sir. The
Good.
documents.
The final payment certificate, the vice chairman at the time, Juliet Kunja, signed saying that the work is completed and was done to a satisfaction and the payment should be made. Is that what you're saying to us?
What I'm saying is that when we were preparing for the queries, the documents show that her signature is on same.
For the same hut that cannot be located.
It's part of the contract, yes.
Sir, can we have that document laid over to the Public Accounts Committee?
Do you have that document in your possession?
Yes.
Okay. You make it available.
May I ask, Mr. Chairman, was the guard hut a singular project or it was part of a project?
It was part of a project.
So the guard hut was supposed to be included as part of a project?
Correct.
Okay, thanks. Pump house.
Or pump house. But I find it strange that the engineer, who at the time was Lachman Singh, the superintendent of works at the time, Dinesh Mohan, and the works committee chairman at the time, vice chairman Juliet Kunja, placed their signature on a document to verify that final payment should be made for this pump house, and the pump house is not in existence. Something is wrong there, because a pump house is not something, is something tangible. You could see it. So if you have the three officers, well, not officers, Juliet Kunja was a political person. She was a councillor at the time of the RDC in her capacity as vice chairman, and appointed later or elected later as the chairman of the works committee. And one would expect that the works committee be that body that oversees and ensure that the officers within the region, in this case the engineer, satisfy before placing a signature. That signature of the works committee chairman comes after visiting the site with the engineer, and the engineer will measure, and the works committee chairman or other persons within the works committee will ensure that the measurements are accurate as per the bid document. This is high-level corruption that is facilitated by the chairman of the Works Committee. And I don't believe, sir, that we should rest this like this, because this document, and as I always say in Public Accounts Committee, these technical officers are responsible to advise the REO. The REO's signature for payments to be made came after this document was prepared. This is the document that the REO sends out his or her team with and say, go and do the measurement and come back and tell me if everything is satisfactory. In this instance, you have the chairman of the Works Committee who was a councillor elected by the people of Region 2.
Keep going
and
on.
was the vice chairman of the region. Yes, I'm going to keep going to show you that even though it is 2017, even though it is the year that you would want to put on the AP and UAFC, the vice chairman was elected under the PPP list. Juliet Kunja was a PPP councillor elected as vice chairman of the region.
You have to summon that chairman here.
And also put as the chairman of the Works Committee. Those are the people who the people of Region 2 elected to vet the projects, to ensure that the project is done so that the taxpayers' money
what
should
is
be
your
accounted
recommendation,
for.
sir?
My recommendation, sir, is that we should summon that person to verify and
to answer yes,
as to why her signature is on a document saying that payments were made for a project and the project is not there.
Along with that recommendation, we got to get the REO also.
I ain't saying no, but as again I make the point, the person who visited the site placed their signature as the guiding document to the REO. So the REO sat in his office, received a document with signatures of 3 persons: the engineer, the superintendent of work, and the vice chairman.
We need to
who is
summon
the
member
Works
Maipa.
Committee chairman.
We need to summon all 3
I don't disapprove of that.
those officers
Mr.
who
Chairman.
signed off on an invisible project.
Mr. Chairman, the first thing, I have no objection to summoning them because I'm sure I would want to hear what they have to say.
Hold on, I'm finished, sir.
Okay.
The committee will summon those officers for next sitting of the PSC, which is on Monday, and we will exert every effort to ensure that they make their appearance.
So, Chair, are we excluding the REO?
The area is out of the jurisdiction.
He can join virtually.
So he can join virtually.
Yes,
or we
we
wait
will-
until
we'll-
he's
we'll
back
also
when
ask
he's
the clerk.
available, so everybody's on board.
We'll ask
He
the
can
clerk
join
to make
virtually.
every effort.
The REO in his correspondence actually asked the PSC to wait his return.
We're not going to wait. We're going to summon those 3 officers on Monday, and we're going to make every effort in contact and provide the link to the REOs out of the jurisdiction to be present to answer to this PSC.
Sir, can I ask a question with your permission?
I
Is
was
Miss
asking for the
Juliet
floor.
Kunja still serving in...
I was asking for the floor.
But I ain't finished. You had the floor all the time. Is Miss Juliet Kunja still
Member
serving on the
Member
RDC?
Maipa,
You've
please
taken over the
conduct
chairmanship.
yourself better than that.
You've taken over the chairmanship.
You have the floor, sir.
I wasn't
Is
finished.
Juliet Kunja still serving on the RDC, or is she in any capacity within the region serving?
Through the chair, she is not on the RDC.
Is she serving the
In
region
any
in any
capacity.
capacity?
I'm unclear to that, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, sir.
I've noticed the trend at the line we're going, and I am happy to find the facts, and I support us getting the answer, but I would like the REO or some one of the officers to tell us what is the standard practice in the region for the signing off of documents as you know it. What has been the standard practice? Because I noticed Mr. Mahaipal says the REO sat in his office and signed off a document that the chairman of the Works Committee and the engineers brought to him. I don't know if the chairman of the Works Committee sat in her office as well and sign a document that the engineer brought to her. So let us hear what's the practice.
Through the chair, the practice basically is the engineer certifies the works done by the contractor, and then it is taken to the different levels to be signed. The REO, the regional vice chair or chair of the works committee also visits projects and signs off as well.
So before the chairman of the works committee signs, your understanding is that they visit and then sign off?
That's the practice now, sir.
No, but you don't know what has been before.
I can't say what happened for that specific project.
Okay.
All the REO sit on that chair. You know the REO.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go to
Member Mahadi, or you have the floor.
Chair, I'd just like also to add that in that same line item, that two of the 450 gallon water tanks are missing also.
What is your query, sir?
My query is
informing, and not just this pump house, 2 tanks.
2 tanks are also missing in that line item, and to have answers where they are or were they ever recovered, was the money refunded?
Through the chair, in responding, the contractor was written to on the items not supplied and the fact that he was overpaid. And recently, dated March 14th, was a recent letter sent, and to date, no response from the said contractor.
No response. Could you tell us the name of the company?
WP Construction, WP Construction.
Has the contractor been bidding for additional contracts with the region?
No, sir.
Pardon?
No.
Has there been any other correspondence written to the contractor? Since 14th of March, you would have written. April,
14th of March this year.
Yes, and we're in May. So I think you should write again.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm at 736 of 2017. And this has to do with drugs and medical supplies.
Okay, before you proceed, I put the remaining paragraphs of 2017 as well as 2018 for consideration.
Sir, we're opening all the paragraphs now?
That is correct.
But I have a number of questions going
You
forward,
will
right?
have your floor.
So I'm indicating that we're not yet at the back, we're still in the front. The sum of 186.099 million was budgeted for procurement of drugs and medical supplies. Line item 6221 for 2017, the regional administration expended 16.76 million and issued the departmental warrant for 169.099 to the Ministry of Public Health for the ministry to procure drugs and medical supplies on behalf of the regional administration. With respect to the departmental warrant, number 2 of 2017, that was issued on the 12th of October 2017 to the Ministry of Public Health for 169 million. A financial return was received on the 4th of January 2018 indicating that the full amount was expended. However, the audit check of the Ministry of Public Health revealed that the full amount was not expended. The sum of 19.042 million was refunded to the consolidated fund. So the reporting was inaccurate. And they have the check that paid back the balance. The table below summarizes the expenditure of drugs and medical supplies on the Health Services Program, line item 6221. Just like occurred in 2016, a similar situation occurred in 2017, whereby although the drugs and medical supplies were received by the regional administration, the cost was not stated on the documentation that accompanied the deliveries. As a result, it could not be determined whether the full value was received for the sums warranted to the Ministry of Public Health. The head of the budget agency responded by saying, the listing has since been received and efforts are being made to reconcile the drugs received with the list provided. Could we get an update of this exercise?
Through the chair, we have received the monies that were warranted to them. They have returned us with the same explanation you made. However, we cannot verify or have a reconciliation because we do not have a cost attached to it. Whilst we have the quantities that is sent to us, we do not have the cost, so it is impossible for us to have the cost in.
Have you requested of the Ministry of Health Materials Management Unit to provide you a cost for the drugs?
Yes,
so that you can get your reconciliation done?
Yes, we have written to the Ministry of Health to facilitate those amounts so that we can reconcile, but to date we haven't gotten any.
So this is a still outstanding matter. I go to paragraph 862 of 2018. Interdepartmental warrant number 1 of 2018 for 130 million, that's 863, was issued on the 9th of April, and number 2, 2018 for 49 million was issued on the 17th of April. Financial returns were received and indicated the amounts totaling 129.952 and 49 million respectively were expended. However, the cost was not stated on the documentation that accompanied the deliveries. As a result, it could not be determined whether the full value was received for the sums warranted to the Ministry of Health. The region's response, the head of the budget agency indicated that amounts of 140 million for drugs and medical supplies from MMU was received and reconciled with the requests made. How did you determine the 140 million? The prices come with the drugs at that time.
Members, please forgive me, but I must leave to go to the washroom, and given the change of the standing orders to the Public Accounts Committee, the meeting can't proceed without me. But I must go. Nature's calling.
We have that right, so we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people. Struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, Cause we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one grass, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, daytime or night. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one grass, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people. Struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we.
How we arrived at the figure into 2018, if numbers came with the accompany the drugs.
So through the chair, in 2018, we would have warranted $179 million to the Ministry of Health. They have given us a reconciliation. However, the reconciliation is only for $140,723,851.
And the drugs came with prices attached in 2018.
Yes.
And why they were unable to provide the same for 2017?
Well, we wrote the Ministry of Health, and they have not responded to us by providing that for us.
When you say they haven't responded, did they say they're unable to?
Yes, they said they were unable to.
To provide the information?
Yes.
They said that in writing?
You have the right to.
I want the document.
Through the chair, if I can add, an email was sent to us. So the chief accountant is trying to get the printed copy of the said email.
What was in the email? Can you read it to the PSC? You don't have it?
And that was sent, may I ask, this year?
Last week, sorry.
Last week?
Yes.
Chairman, I have a follow-up to the same question somebody else
Go ahead, member.
When was it that the region wrote to MMU concerning 2017?
Well, as far as I'm aware, from the time I became the RHO, I've been asking for a reconciliation on a yearly basis. So last year, which is 2016, we asked for that reconciliation, and also we wrote other
Last year when
letters
it was what?
for 2016 when we came to PAC last year. So we keep writing them for reconciliation on a yearly basis.
And you don't know if any letter was sent to MMU or any response from MMU came during the year 2016, 17, 18, 19.
I wouldn't be able to say if they responded to the letters sent.
Did you check the records of the regional health office?
Yes, I don't have any response from the Ministry of Health.
What about the REO?
No records were found. That is why we proceeded with writing same requesting.
So when was the letter written from the from your office, RHO?
The letter was written from my office in March, asking for the reconciliation.
March of 2021.
Reminder was sent this year, March, and we would have wrote last year as well.
But when in last year, may I ask?
Has there ever been a meeting with all of the regional health officers with the minister to share your concerns and such like?
Yes, we had meetings.
And would you have brought this to the minister's attention of your desire to have these information?
Well, we would have indicated. However, we keep asking.
Who you
for,
indicated to? The minister?
Yes, and the PS.
In his presence when you meet
Yes.
as a collective? So he's aware that you are in search of this information?
That's for 2017, yeah. What I can say also is that this matter was rectified because in 2021 we have already received a reconciliation for the monies that we warranted to the ministry.
Mr. Chairman, may I proceed?
I'm still waiting for an answer.
Can you repeat your question?
The date the first letter was written. I heard that the follow-up was written on March 2022.
So through the chair, we have letter dated back since March 5th, 2019, requesting the same financial return from the ministry.
So since 2019, the region was
Following up.
with MMU. Okay, and MMU responded when? You said last week just now.
Last week
A
we
date?
got an email from the PS.
A date, please.
Can we provide the information? Can you give me some time to provide? Because we did receive it, but it's
Would
not.
1 week be sufficient?
Yes,
A date.
Okay.
thank you.
Member
Thank you, Chair.
Member Edger, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. I'm at 741 of 2017. Logbooks and 865 of 2018. The Auditor General cited in both years that a number of logbooks were not properly maintained or submitted. Could we be advised what is the current situation if this matter has been remedied, these logbooks have been produced, and so on for 2017 and 2018?
So through the chair, the 14 outstanding logbooks for the particular year in question was not found. The present practice is that we must see an updated logbook before we sign off any ISR. And the previous REO would have also conducted relevant training to those personnel that would utilize the procedures to fill up ISR and logbooks.
All right. In 2018, only 46 was presented, and they had 32 unpresented. Have you been able to get the 32 logbooks?
No, the 15 outstanding has not been found.
Well, 14 in 27 and 32 in 2018. I don't know what you're calling 15. The Auditor General says of the 78 serviceable vehicle equipment which logbooks were required to be maintained, logbooks were only presented for 46, leaving 32 unpresented. And even the ones that were presented were not properly written up. Is this a matter of training for the drivers? Is it a matter of supervision? Is it a matter of compliance? What is the issue here? I didn't want to go to depth. We've had situations in other agencies where the Auditor General had to bring matters to our, but I'm trying to find out, did you discover what was the real issue here?
So through the chair, training was commenced. We had training done to try to curb this said situation so we do not have a repeat. At the present time, for those particular 2 years, I may not be able to have an accurate answer for you as to what would have caused that.
Mr.
In
Chairman.
2017, Mr. Chairman, at C, the authorizing officer's signature, neither the checking officer's signature was not on documents. So how could people be collecting fuel, movement? The purpose of auditing this is to ensure no abuse of the system. And the storage regulations clearly state how this needs to do, ensure the checks and balances. What, from your reading and records that are available to you since you got into office, tell us what would have actually been the scenario 2017 and 2018 as it relates to these vehicles and their logbooks? Because there's a more serious issue. If logbooks are not maintained for fuel, you cannot get an honest opinion as it relates to maintenance. Your maintenance bill cannot be adequately verified. Because if you have to do servicing every 5,000 kilometers and the logbooks are not maintained, you don't know how many times the vehicles were serviced per year. And the bill is just there. So that is why it's very important. Could you explain to us what was transpiring?
Through the chair, it would have been clearly stated already that we did not have these things properly written up.
But you have a reason why it wasn't written up? The drivers, the staff officers who are there, they're not competent? It was just that they weren't doing it. Was there an inquiry? Was there questions asked? Did you find any documents to suggest any of these persons were written to advise? This is 2017 and 2018. Was any action taken against any of these officers? Do you see any record stating that they were written to asking for compliance?
Yes, through the chair in the year 2017, a memo was done from that REO, and the subject matter was updating of all logbooks. And in the year 2019, same repeat of a memo was done as a forced reminder as well, indicating to all the users of these logbooks and ISR the correct procedure to follow.
And it continued and nothing happened?
Well, the practice has stopped. We are, we are not doing that anymore. We are making sure that we monitor from all levels.
When you took over, was the practice stopped? When you got there, what you're reading here, was happening and you had to change it, or had changed already?
It would have commenced because before me, the REO would have conducted a training on the said matter.
The REO before you?
Yes.
You know what year that training was done?
Yes, the training was done last year, the 11th month, the 28th.
The 28th?
2020. The
So
11th month.
The REO recognized there was a problem and he sought to remedy it by conducting a training.
Yeah, with all the drivers.
With all the drivers?
Yes.
And since then, there's been an improvement of the system?
Correct.
Well, I will recommend, Mr. Chairman, that the permanent secretary who's present at this discussion should advise that that same training module be used for all the other regions where the issue of logbooks are having a problem, because something must have worked right since November 2020 to change the situation in Essequibo. So we could get that done across the country and save the government some much needed money and have greater accountability. Thank you.
Sir, a follow-up, please. And just to say, thank you, and just to say that the Auditor General has not completed his audit of 2020. No, we're not in receipt of the Auditor General's findings for the year 2021.
So that recommendation.
So we don't even know if there is indeed a difference in terms of what the REO is indicating to us until the Auditor General audits and find that indeed there is improvement with reference to what the REO is saying. The REO is giving our honest opinion, and I respect that. But until it is audited, there can be no verification and recommendation to say that we should follow a model that was not tested as yet. Now, to go to my questions along the same line, 741 of 2017, clearly fuel was being uplifted, and it was uplifted without the signature of the officer authorizing the journey and uplifted without the signature of the checking officer. Now, who was the person responsible for the security of the fuel, so that when a vehicle comes to collect fuel, that person has to give out the fuel? Because the way the region handles the fuel, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that they have a stores and they store fuel there, or do they go to gas stations? What is the system that the region had?
Through the chair, there is a storage facility.
So you have a storage facility that keeps a bulk of fuel, and somebody is responsible for that fuel, and they are responsible to issue the fuel out to these vehicles, correct?
Correct.
Who's that person? Or who was that person in 2017?
I'm being advised our store attendant, and his name is Mr. Ramadar.
Store attendant. And Mr. who?
Ramadar.
Ramadar? Is Mr. Ramadar still the store attendant?
Yes.
When did he become the store attendant?
I'm being guided that he has been employed over 10 years now.
Over 10 years. So Mr. Ramadar, and over 10 years as the store attendant?
Yes.
So for over 10 years now, Mr. Ramadar has been controlling fuel in this region in terms of being responsible to give out fuel to the vehicles?
There's a rotation with other staffing as well.
No, but if we're going to establish that there's a rotation, then are we going to establish that Mr. Ramadar handled it in the entire 2017? Did he handle it for a period of time with these vehicles? That is what we need to know. Because what I am seeing here is that this was an operation that was going on, a fuel racket, if I may term it that way, where Mr. Ramadar, as you claim, was the person responsible for fuel during the year, gave out fuel without recognizing the signature of the officer authorizing the journey and without having the signature of checking officer not seen. So I wanted to ask, who was the checking officer and who was the signature of the officer authorizing the journey at the time?
Through the chair, I'm being guided that the store attendant would normally issue fuel based on the ISR and not logbook.
Hold on, we're getting a little bit more complicated here now. So the logbook doesn't... Oh, the ISR is what you issue the fuel on. So the ISR had the satisfactory signatures for the fuel to be issued.
Yes.
Who signs the ISR? Obviously, somebody has to prepare, somebody has to check, and then somebody has to authorize. So it's prepared by the driver, I'm guessing. Can you guide me?
So I'm being guided that the drivers normally make the requests where the program managers would recommend and the approval is done by the head of the budget agency.
And then that goes to the store's attendant. And is there anything that he signs I guess he tears it out and keeps it or something?
Yes, on the said ISR, there's a issuing part where he would sign off.
So these vehicles with these logbooks, you have 5 programs in your region. This is capturing all 5 programs, or is it specific to a program with reference to these logbooks that were not properly written up and no signature for the officer authorizing the journey or signature of checking officer was not seen? Is it for all the programs or specifically to a program?
Well, if I can make reference to 740 and 41 based on the audit query, they can show you the type of vehicle. So it would be across the programs.
Across the program. So the signature of officer authorizing the journey, who is that? That will be the program manager?
The logbook now is where the driver or the transport officer would write up before they come for ISR to be approved.
No, let me understand. We're talking here about logbooks. We finished with the ISR. The ISR has to do with collecting fuel, right? Logbook now tells us about the journey, where the vehicle is going and mileage and so on, right?
Correct.
So the signature of officer authorizing journey was not stated. Who are the officers that authorize journeys?
So I'm being guided, it would be the different section of heads.
And the signature of checking officer will be who?
The program managers.
Okay, the program manager checks. And the one who's authorizing is the section head.
Yes.
Something sounds wrong there. Isn't it the program manager who's supposed to authorize? The program manager is responsible for the program. So take, for example, you said you have your engineer or your regional health officer. Let's use your regional health officer, for example. Under the regional health program, you have the nurses that fall under a program, you have the administration, another program, then you have the doctors that fall under with the MS, the medical superintendent. I think you have another one, 5 sub-programs, right? Environmental health. So your regional environmental officer is the person who will request for this vehicle to go somewhere. Isn't it you as RHO who will have to authorize that vehicle to leave your compound?
So in health, the hospital administrator because all the vehicles are part of the hospital administration. So the hospital administrator, for example, ambulance and other utility vehicles, the administrator will authorize the trips and I will sign as a checking officer.
So what you check for?
Well, make sure that the journey was carried out and the amount of fuel that they're claiming before I can replenish as signing as a requesting officer on the ISR.
For a quantity for your
Yes.
program, for a
Yes.
general quantity.
Yes, for the vehicle.
Okay, I understand that. So the signature of the officer authorizing the journey and so on, these people are still under the employ of the region?
Yes.
And they're still under the employ of the region?
The authorizing officers?
Uh-huh.
Yes. For example, the hospital, the administrator is authorizing the journey.
And that person is still under the employ, notwithstanding all of this. Not that they shouldn't be, but what action was taken for this mishap that happened in 741, paragraph 741? Because if the officer is still there, by not placing their signature and so on, and not authorizing trips and so on, was any action taken?
Well, when we
Because
took over,
these jobs, if I may, this is part of his job description. He was employed, right? He was employed not only at health, but the other programs too, public works, admin and finance, health and education. They were employed, whoever has this responsibility, this was a part of their job description.
I have a. Yes, I do. If I could. Mr. Chair, I just want to point out that we're looking at paragraph in 2017, we're looking at paragraph 740 and 741. And if we could just turn our attention to the breakdown as it is there in 740, we would see, as it is indicating here, 14 logbooks were not presented. The paragraph in 741 went on to give a breakdown saying that you have they were not recording, so the distance and journey could not be covered, and so on and so forth. But I just want us to just take note that when it comes to the outstanding logbooks, the outstanding logbooks were not for the motor vehicles nor outboard engine, but for 3 motorcycles, for 5 pump, 1 generator, and a machine and equipment. Those were the outstanding logbooks that they did not have. We have several when it comes to the logbooks received, which was the 59 received. You would see that all of the motor vehicles, the 21 is being covered there, and all of the outboard engine is being covered there. So when it comes to the absence of logbooks, my question more so would be why aren't there any logbooks for the pumps and the generator and 3 motorcycles? Well, why are they out missing logbooks for these altogether? And I want to just make the point right now also, Mr. Chair, that I think Mr. Maipol is at pains in pointing out that this is something that has been going on for some time. And I just want to make the point also that even prior, it is a system that definitely needs to be fixed, and we need to look at it all together to see who are these individuals that are responsible for doing these things, because it has been there for years. And I want to say that the 2014 report is reporting the exact thing for the region. The exact concerns are there in the 2014 report, not stating the distance of the journey covered, signatures of authorizing the officer authorizing the journey was not evident, fuel and lubricant receipts were not recorded. All of these things stated right here for region number 2 in the 2014 report. So this is not just something that you can just say that you're going to fix. If there are personnels that have been involved in this process for years, it definitely needs to be looked at, because it is impossible for us to see that from 2014, probably even further back, because this is as far back as I'm looking, that you have this repeated issue within the region. But just those 2 things I wanted to point out as we are right now, because the generator, we're not talking about distance cover and vehicle and all of that when it's a generator. And so let us just be very direct when we are looking at how many of these instances is for vehicle as opposed to generator and so forth.
Yes, sir, and it was along that line, if I may conclude on this paragraph for me, that I'm establishing that the officers who have respective responsibilities and who have been there for a number of years, it is an inherent problem that requires us to address. And on that basis, sir, I want to say to the REO that she needs to really look at these reports of the Auditor General and the problems that are here, ensure that you put measures in place for there not to be a repeat, because you would find that you have to be advised as REO by the very people who are culpable of making these mistakes. So you need to really zoom in and ensure that these reports, you read them and you see the problem and ensure that you're guided properly. It's your technical officers, your program managers, and the staff who have to provide you with that level of guidance so that you can perform your duty well. Thank you, Comrade Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Right.
I'm at paragraph 742 of 2017 and 866 of 2018. And while we turn our attention there, I think my colleagues on the other side did see the light while I asked that the module for the training be adopted, but we were quick to react that we're not sure the problem is solved. This has to do with stores regulations, sir. At hospitals, supplies in 2017 and 2018. A physical count from a sample of 51 items carried out at the ration store revealed that there were 42 items with differences, 29 instances of shortages, and 13 instances of excess when compared with the stock ledger, which is a symptom of a problem, things coming in and leaving the stores and not adequately recorded. Oscar Joseph Hospital. A physical stock count of the ration store revealed that bin cards, stock ledgers, and internal store requisitions were not updated, resulting in physical stocks not corresponding with records. Further checks revealed the following. Reconciliation of a sample of 60 ISRs to the ledger revealed that there were no ledger entries for 32 items. A physical count carried out at the drug bond on a sample of 107 items revealed that there were 32 instances of shortages and 62 instances of excesses. Question, 2017, and we have a record of the same thing in 2018 at both public hospital study and Oscar Joseph. In the stores, how many staff you have and what are the designations?
This is for the fiscal year 2017 and 2018.
2017 and 2018.
So in 2017, the stores at Soddy Public Hospital had 2 staff, a storekeeper and a store clerk.
2018?
Same.
The storage regulation requires how many you should have?
Through the chair, it should be 1 storekeeper, 2 store clerk, 1 ledger clerk, and 1 store attendant.
And that is to facilitate separation of duties.
Yes, yes, sir.
And
yes.
Earlier we spoke about 123 other staff that were hired. And in no time in 2017 and no time in 2018 did we hire to ensure that we had the separation of responsibilities in the stores.
No, sir.
Could you give us an idea from the various line items, the volume of money that will be passing through the stores and then on the year 2017 and 2018? Mr. Chairman, just the question has to do with reminder. The purpose of the audit of the stores is to ensure that items that are procured actually enter the system and they're actually used in the system for the benefit of which it was procured. And that is why there's separation of duties to ensure the person who's receiving can't be the person who's delivering. Bid cards are there to ensure that we have checks to see that we have shortage, how things are moving, to be able to make proper requisition. So there's separation of duties in the stores according to the store's regulations. These are billions of dollars passed through the stores.
Yes. There we go now.
The question is, how did we manage with the shortage of staff? How could we have accommodated transparency and accountability in the process here? With 2 staff.
Are you?
Through the chair, the years in question, indeed, lack of staffing contributed to same. At present, same has been rectified. We have additional staff, plus we have the stock verifiers visiting quarterly to do physical checks and so on.
When were the additional staff hired?
In 2019, I'm being guided.
2019.
Corrective.
Yeah,
Member Finance.
I just wanted to follow up on that response. So, as it is right now in 2022, the stores have a full complement of staff?
Yes.
Could we just go back through the staff that's in the stores right now?
We have the storekeeper, we have a store attendant, we have 2 store clerks, and actually it's 3 store clerks. One is a ledger clerk. That's the segregation of duties. Just excuse my voice, it's kind of worse. Segregation of duties in terms of entering in the ledgers. So that person is not placed in the store. That person is out of the store.
We have a storekeeper, a store attendant, and 3 clerks.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And these persons who are employed, you said in 2019?
Yes.
So, okay. Thank you.
Embassy Raj.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 7/50/2017. Mr. Chairman, it's stated here that a contract 2017, 750. And a contract was awarded for the general repairs, operation, maintenance of building at Guyana. And it was awarded via the 3-quote method of procurement for the sum of $7.6 million. Can we be told why this contract was awarded via the 3-quote method?
Through the chair, I will not be able to answer you accurately for that particular period.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to bring your attention.
One second. Member Siraj, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My follow-up is, but this might be putting the accounting office in a difficult position, but I just want to make reference, Mr. Chairman, to the amendment of Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 to the principal regulation governing procurement under the Procurement Act, which states that the threshold foreseen in Section 27(1) of the Act for the use of request for quotation method of procurement shall be maximum 1.5 million. Maximum, I put that in there, Mr. Chairman. I'm not quoting it. Shall be $1.5 million. This contract was awarded to the sum of $7.6 million via the 3-quote system. And I think when we get to the other paragraphs, I'll speak to that. But this raises the question, Mr. Chairman, why would the accounting officer go for a 3-quote procurement for the value of 7.6 when the procurement regulation is very clear on limits to be used for a three-coat method.
We'll have to allow Member Maipal to take his seat before we proceed. We don't have a quorum. Yes, proceed.
May I proceed, sir?
Said proceed.
Following up on the issue that Member Siraj raised, could the REO confirm that the three-code system is to the purpose of what is called shopping in procurement, of which there's a limit at the regional level?
Go ahead, Ario.
Through the chair, presently that I know of, quotation methods fall within the range 3 million and below.
But that has to do with not having to go to procurement process of advertising, selective tendering, and so on. That's to handle emergencies that the regional executive officer could get quotations and handle with.
We request
Yes, it's called request
yes,
quotation.
Yes.
So the issue that is being addressed, the then regional executive officer, by way of this document which was circulated, I would like to read what he says. Referring to audit queries on general observation of contracts, I must state that in some cases the projects we felt were emergencies, such as the construction of the duplex living quarters at Wakapau Health Center, where the doctor had problems with housing. The opposition RDC complained, while the regional health officer insisted it should be done from the savings from the health budget. The sanitary block at Charity Primary School was also an urgent problem. In the case of Masikamo Recreation Center, the construction was in response to a plea by the residents to President David Granger for such. This and a few other projects were executed from money saved from the prudent management of contracts. The above could also be explained by the urging of some principals to increase the rate of the region's spending of budgetary allocations. Spend the money. You can go three quotes or invite contractors to bid. However, upon the recommendations of the audit office, this practice was discontinued in 2018, though we were able to save more than 230 million by the end of that year. Now, the REO in writing is saying to us in 2017 and so on, that this was done because of urgings, where it came from political operatives, where it comes from the people, and all the rest of it. Could you advise PAC that REOs and accounting officers are guided by law and not by sentiments? Could you advise us?
Through the chair, we have the Procurement Act to follow.
We have the Procurement Act to follow. Thank you. Secondly, could you indicate to us that if you go with a three-code system, do it go to the tender board for approval?
Advice for the PSC don't come from accounting officers, it come from the advisors.
Could
proceed.
The REO tell us if in the use of the three-code systems or requests for quotations, the decision for award comes through a tender board process or it remains with the REO?
Through the chair, it follows the tender board process.
It goes to the tender board.
Yes.
Could you indicate to us that if a matter like this, where a three-code system is used and it goes to the tender board, that this should have been something that is flagged by the tender board? We cannot do this.
Through the chair, I'm not sure if my response would be appropriate, but my understanding is if they understood the procurement after guidance, they would have realized that they exceed the 1.5. Given that particular year, it's the quotation centered 1.5 below.
Do you have any minutes of the tender board that we could be guided by what happened with this project?
I'm being guided that no documents was found.
No documents was found. So there's no evidence that this went to the tender board.
To my knowledge, no.
I didn't get that.
No. Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm following up on my original question in paragraph 750.
Go ahead.
2017. Although this contract was for repairs and maintenance, I noted the Auditor General is raising a concern that works of a capital nature was included. Does the accounting officer have any knowledge as to why this was done?
Spend the money, spend the money.
Go ahead, Ario.
Through the chair, I may not be able to respond for the particular year as to why the practice would have happened.
Mr. Chairman, 751. There's a contract here for the extension 2017, contract for extension of Saudi Primary School Annex. It is stated here that the award went to the third lowest of 5 bidders. Can the accounting officer say if there is any reason in the record as to why it would have gone to the third lowest and not to the lowest?
And that would be the third lowest responsive bidder.
I'm quoting from the report, Mr. Chairman, and it did not specify if it's the third lowest.
But the awarding of contracts at the regional tender board level is to the lowest responsive bidder.
That is correct, and that is why my query is why it went to the third lowest and not the lowest.
Through the chair, I do not have an answer for you at the time,
Understood. We have to go to New Jersey. Mr. Chairman, a follow-up. It is stated...
Hold on a pointer, sir. I am seeing that it is saying here that the award went to the third lowest of 5 bidders. That cannot mean that it didn't go to the lowest responsive. Yes, the third lowest of 5 bidders. But that does not mean that it was not the lowest responsive.
Mr. Chairman, my question was that is the accounting office in possession of any information to say why it went to the third lowest?
Good. Now
that was my question.
That was the Mellon's question, and the RU had responded that she's not in possession of the question, the documents. I don't know where you were, sir.
No. I hear he said...
The chairman was not aware where you were. Mr. Chairman, a follow-up. It is stated in the bill of quantities that roofing sheets, they were supposed to be, based on this contract, 89 square meters of roofing material. I suppose that these are zinc sheets because they have zinc screws here, but none was supplied. Of the 89 square meter, none was supplied. Can we be told why is it that payments would have been approved for something that will be quite glaring and it was not placed on the primary school annex and payments were approved?
Are you?
Through the chair, the practice then, I'm not sure why that had happened.
And you have no documentation?
No, the evaluation minute or the report was not found the same.
Mr. Chair, if I may just ask.
But if I can add, if permit me,
Hold on,
to give a little clarity. This particular contractor was written to, and he did make contact with our engineering department and my office And during last week and the weekend, he did corrective works. The roofing and the electrical aspect of the said school annex was looked at, and now he is asking that we have auditors to verify same, because from the engineering department, our electrical team visited and verified, as well as the roofing. So to my knowledge, corrective work has been done. I just need now the auditors to verify same.
Mr. Chairman, I was checking to see if
Did you write the auditors to indicate to them that this was work done by the contractor? You're requesting them to come and verify?
Same was communicated through the engineer, and a point to note too, all corrective works were finished over the weekend, Saturday.
And in this contract is still bidding in the region for contracts?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I was seeking to get us some information. Could the REO says, as it relates to the operation of the tender board, if you found files that you could access to get information on these projects that are on the query?
Region 2, 2013 and 2014.
I'm being guided that the evaluation report cannot be found.
So there are no evaluation reports that you have seen?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Your search for documents, is it only at the regional level? Have you ventured to seek these documentation from the accountant general, the regional, the
evaluation reports don't go there.
Sir, allow me to make my point. As well as the tender board, the national tender board, there are different sources of the very documents that the region would have in its possession that other agencies can also, that other agencies rather also have in their possession. So the question is, if you would have only limited yourself to the source of the document at the regional level.
So I'm being guided that they found the tender board minutes and not the evaluation report. And the follow-up to your question, if we seek elsewhere, the tender board, the evaluation report normally remains with the region.
So you have ventured outside of the region for additional information to prepare yourself to make an appearance before the Public Accounts Committee.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Sir, I'm not finished.
No, but
allow the young lady to
in fairness to the REO, sir, if the reports remain in the region and they're not in the region, where else could she look?
Sir, this committee would have advised other accounting officers who would
look for evaluation reports outside of the region?
I'm not restricting my query to this particular question, sir.
There's a question before us.
But I am not restricting my question to your question.
The chairman on the floor, why are you so disrespectful?
So, Madam REO, the question still remains. In your preparation to make an appearance before the Public Accounts Committee, was your search for documents limited to only the region, and not specifically to this honorable member's question?
Through the chair, what we're not clear with from our level, or if we don't have documentation, we normally seek the assistance from the auditors within our region. And to remind us again that the evaluation report that do not be shared with other agencies. That report is not circulated.
I would like to hear the members' response, please, members. Yes, what did you say?
He's an installed minister.
When we do not
Ganesh, please turn your mic up. Yes.
If certain documents are not being found or we're uncleared, we normally seek assistance from the auditors within our region. And in this particular instance, the evaluation report is not circulated to others, only the tender board minutes. Hence, that is why I'm being guided here that no evaluation report is being surfaced, just tender board minutes.
Ario, my question is not pertaining to this evaluation report. My question is a holistic question. In your preparation to make your appearance to the Public Accounts Committee, given the fact that there are so many queries, you would have had to ascertain certain documents of which it is clear that the region was not in possession of. So my question to you, have you sought other avenues to procure the documents, such as the Accountant General's office, for example, that can assist you, especially when it comes to the payment of contract and vouchers? She could provide you with information that the region may not be in possession of. So that's why I'm asking, in your preparation, did you sought other avenues?
Sir. Yes, we did.
Where?
We did ask AG, and we even meet out to the previous REO to see if he has certain information, of which he said he has copies, but we don't have it.
Member Michael.
Mr. Chairman, I turn your attention to para 749 of 2017 and 868 of 2018. And because it deals with the same issue, I wish to focus on the 2018 side. The regional administration operated 3 special projects account, numbers 6852354, 6852339, 590-0477, held at Republic Bank. May I ask, first of all, are these accounts still in operation at the regional administration?
Through the chair, yes.
May I ask if the proceeds from these accounts, the revenue garnered from these accounts, if they're being deposited into the consolidated fund?
No.
May I ask why?
Our economic project and economic affairs account is an account that we would normally do, like our Esquibo night or any activity. That money would go into that account. Is the regions doing these activities to garner funds to put into those accounts?
But the region is garnering resource or money, financial resource, through activities, and the law, the only way this can be permitted, and I'm asking for guidance from our Accountant General, our Finance Secretary, and our Auditor General. Can the region facilitate such an account or 3 accounts and not deposit the monies into the consolidated fund? Is there a law that allows them to do that? Because the last I know is that the law states all monies garnered should be deposited into the consolidated fund. So can I ask our technical advisors first for some guidance?
At the last PSC, the FS would have asked some time, particularly with regards to this very said question, to do some research and get back to the PSC.
No, this is different. This is different.
What
is different? This is an economic venture under the RDC. The last time we were looking at a special account that deals with drainage board and NDIA and
Question
so on.
still remains the same with regards to funds not going into the consolidated fund.
Yeah, but they're 2 different, sir. The one that we were dealing with at the last time had to do with the Drainage Sea Defense Board having an act that speaks to the agriculture account that Region 3 has, and I think Region 5 and some other regions. That is totally different. Because I read the Act 2, the Sea Defense Board Act, and it did speak to the Accountant General being the part that they can have the account, but the Accountant General, I believe, has this in terms of management of it. This is a different issue altogether.
To the chair.
Yes, go ahead, AG.
What I'm reading here at paragraph 749, I am aware that the Economic Project Fund, that's a fund that is operated for the State House, and all funds for the state that goes into that account. REO may have to advise me on what the other one is for, the reserve fund. I'm not acquainted with that one there. And the other one for best brewery.
But AG, the fund that you're speaking
For
of.
the economic fund, that's the operations of all State House across all regions.
And at the end of
that
the-
amounts are not paid into the consolidated fund.
Okay.
But that's okay. Nothing is wrong with that.
Nothing is wrong with that.
Okay, what-
That was the purpose it was open for the operations of all state houses.
So can you point us to which law permits them to not deposit it into the consult fund?
I'll have to do research for that.
I will appreciate that.
That's-
What
thank
about
you.
the other two now?
That's where I'm not acquainted with the other two. That's where I need the REO's advice on that. Though. What are the purpose of the other two?
What's the purpose, Ario?
And as the REO ponder on that response, sir, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I must take a washroom break at this time. Thank you.
With that said, 4 to 5 minutes.